Good evening, everyone. Mic check, mic check. We're good, we're live. Hello, hello. Lola's grabbing tea. Well, Morgan, maybe the neighbors deserve to be barked at, right? Okay, stream looks good, stream looks healthy. We are going to deem a doom tonight. I love that. That is the doom that we must deem. Yeah. And boy, you know what? I didn't even check where the poll ended up. It was close. Last I checked, the Wizard Talk was in the lead. Yeah, that's it. Saruman and Gandalf. That's what I thought. That's what I mostly read in the last day or so, reread to talk about. I just wanted to make sure nothing had pulled ahead of that in the Discord voting. But we'll talk about the other stuff too if we have time. Abir joining us for the first time live. Awesome. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Coming from Rachel's video too. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a fun one. Went up today on the makeup channel. Okay, so we're going to talk a little Council of Elrond. We're going to finish it off tonight. And I'm making my do we dive right into it face, but Nikki, you're here just for the start. That's okay. Yeah, if you need to bail, I know it's late there. Yes, Paige, very good. Rachel of many colors. Yes, Rachel trying to blend many colors that are dazzling to the eye. Very good. All right. So, okay, so I think it's I think Jessie is not here tonight. Jessie mentioned she's working again on Friday mornings, so can't join live, which again, I keep saying this, but I am eventually going to find a time to do at least one stream that is Europe friendly. And I know I can't say that too many more times before actually doing it, so it's coming. A lot of great questions from Jessie. I want to add something to well, let's look at number 6, because I don't think we're going to look at it closely in the text discussion, but I thought it was a good one. Are the men of Rohan giving their horses to Mordor, or were they stolen? From the previous chapters, I thought they were stolen, but here it seems like they were more extorted from them. So so there is an answer to this question that we find out later in the book, but I think the interplay is interesting here, and I want to read through the sort of the back and forth on this, because it is said by Gwaihir, this is page 341, they, meaning the men of Rohan, pay a tribute of horses and send many yearly to Mordor, or so it is said, but they are not yet under the yoke. But if Saruman has become evil, as you say, then their doom cannot be long delayed. So Gandalf is asking if the men of Rohan are still to be trusted, and Gwaihir's answer is that it is said that they pay a tribute of horses to Mordor, but are not yet under the yoke. So they're keeping an uneasy peace of sorts, buying that peace with a tribute of horses. That is the word on the street. And going back to, so that's Gandalf recounting his discussion with Gwaihir, and then Aragorn says back in the council, it grieves me more than many tidings that might seem worse to learn that Sauron levies such tribute, meaning the horses. It was not so when last I was in that land. And Boromir interjects, nor is it now, I will swear, said Boromir. It is a lie that comes from the enemy. I know the men of Rohan, true and valiant, our allies, dwelling still in the lands that we gave them long ago. I think I will swear is a really important thing to read here, and I think that's our cue as to, there's a he said, she said here, right? Gwaihir says that it is said that they pay a tribute of horses. And, well, let's finish off the passage. Aragorn kind of questions him a little bit here. The shadow of Mordor lies on distant lands, answered Aragorn. Saruman has fallen under it. Rohan is beset. Who knows what you will find there, if ever you return. So, despite I will swear, which is, I don't think Boromir says that lightly, Aragorn is kind of challenging him on that. Well, you never know, right? You never know. And Boromir says, not this at least, in response to who knows what you will find there. Not this at least, said Boromir, that they will buy their lives with horses. They love their horses next to their kin, etc., etc. So Boromir's pretty definitive on this. And Boromir is and will be seen to be many things, not all of them good, though many of them very good. But a liar is not one of them. And if he will swear that it is not that way now, and that the men of Rohan will not buy their lives with horses, we get an answer to this later in the book as to who's right here. But I'm already willing to believe that he's right on that. That is not the case, that Gwaihir is misinformed. And so, as a first-time reader, I think even not knowing Boromir, not knowing that he is not a liar, right? I think we get a cue in how certain he is. Now, you can be certain and be wrong, but if I'm a first-time reader and I read this passage and I say, okay, well, it's a he said, she said, or he said, which way am I going to lay my bet? It's that, no, they're not paying a tribute of horses. They're stolen horses. And then there was another question. Maddie put one into the book questions, which is awesome. I love Jesse's questions, but it's great that when she doesn't have to go it alone. Maddie says, when they're discussing whether or not Tom Bombadil can hide the ring, Galdor says, power to defy our enemy is not in him, unless such power is in the earth itself. And yet we see that Sauron can torture and destroy the very hills. Is this a reference to Mirkwood from The Hobbit, or the existence of Mordor in general? And that Melavara, are you here tonight, Melavara? I gave a good question, an answer that if we continue to read looking for this, we can get more specific answers, which yes, but I think it is a reference to destroying the landscape and turning the earth itself hostile and evil and ugly. And that's kind of my read too, but I am interested to keep looking at this. I want to keep this in mind because what I go to, and this is this is the problem of having read the Silmarillion and the back material. So I think of, we know that the Ainur and even the Maiar can rend the earth, cause mountains to spring up and valleys and everything like that. And we know that they have that power. So I immediately think, what great mountain range has Sauron brought up? Are the what is the mountain range? I have a map of Middle Earth up there. Hang on. Is it the Ered Luin? No, that's the Blue Mountains. Hang on, I gotta get up and look at my map. Ugh. I can't even read it on my map. It's the Mountains of Shadow. I know that's what they are, but I can't remember. Someone in the chat, please tell me what the Mountains of Shadow are. But anyway, did Sauron raise those? Because they're kind of, shaped in a bulwark against the west, right? And they're open to the east. So is that what is referenced? Um, is that it? I don't know. Um, oh, Wendy is here. Yes, Melavara. Thank you. Good. So I liked your answer. So I think we're thinking about kind of the same thing, like sort of the pits and the land of Mordor. I'm wondering if he raised the hills around Mordor, if that's what's being. Etheldua, thank you. That's what it is. Yes, thank you, Wendy and Christy. Um, it's not Ered, it's Ethel, which is weird. Um, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I it is yeah, we had daylight savings time change this week, and I didn't even think about that would make the time different for some other people. Is this where where are you, and uh is that better or worse for you? Yeah, daylight saving just kicked in for us on Sunday, Nikki. Oops, sorry about that. Yola, by the way, happy birthday. Happy 30th. Yes. Oh, okay, good. So that it seems to have come to the advantage of our European friends who have not yet had time change. Okay, so it's the Sindarin name, Efelduath. Okay, all right, we're piecing things together. Good. Um, yes. Good. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, so we have more joining us tonight. Okay, so after this week, we'll be synced up again. Um, Turkover is here for the first time. Welcome as well. We have so many people joining for the first time, probably because it's an hour earlier for so many. Wonderful. Love that. Okay, well, sorry you can't stay, but thank you for joining. All right. Where were we? Okay, so Sauron rending the hills. I think that's what it's talking about. That's my guess, and Lindy's as well. Torture and destroy the very hills. Although torture and destroy, and I read that again, that's not really raising hills, is it? Raising the Efelduath is not torturing and destroying the very hills. I hate it when I have like an answer and then I conclude it and then it's entirely wrong. Okay, let's keep an eye on that, because I think we will. I mean, might take until the Return of the King, but we'll get more data on that. But at least we know that Sauron can torture and destroy the very hills, and from the Silmarillion we know that that is not inconsistent with the power of the Ainur and the Maiar. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so Maddie and Christy are saying a sort of the same thing. It sounds like a sort of corruption or destroying the natural part of them. Yes. Torture, I could get that from that. Destroy, okay. But then, like, the very hills, like, he tortures and destroys the plains, too, right? Why, so why hills? Why is that specifically called out? What hills does he torture and destroy? Okay, I don't think I'm going to get it on the fly, but let's revisit that in the Discord chat during the week if we can think of anything. I want to get to the wizards. So Radagast and Gandalf. So Radagast comes in good faith and tells Gandalf that he has an urgent errand. His news is evil, and then he does that sort of furtive looking around him, and then Nazgul. which is fun. I like this exchange. But what is interesting to me is Saruman's message that he gives to Radagast. He told me to say that if you feel the need, he will help. But you must seek his aid at once, or it will be too late. So that message is cunning, right? If you feel the need. So if you Gandalf think that you have this situation well in hand and you can stand up to the 9 when they are gathered under their felled chieftain, you go right ahead. No big deal. You don't have to come. Like, it's not, there's nothing about this that should raise the alarm, right? Like, this is your choice if you think yourself so powerful. So I think it's naturally calculated to make Gandalf want to show his humility, because he's aligned that way, kind of, right? He's not going to take it all upon himself. He would seek aid in a situation like this. But you must seek his aid at once, or it will be too late. So don't go meddling about in anything else. Get there right away so he can, lock you up or turn you. So off he goes. Late one evening I came to the gate, like a great arch in the wall of rock, and it was strongly guarded. But the keepers of the gate were on watch for me and told me that Saruman awaited me. I rode under the arch, and the gate closed silently behind me, and suddenly I was afraid, though I knew no reason for it. Jesse asked, and I think it's a good question, why does he feel afraid? Is it foreboding? Is it foresight? I mean, I think it doesn't have to be any sort of specific foresight to get the heebie-jeebies here, right? I think we've seen Gandalf be in tune with his feelings enough. I keep thinking a shadow fell on my heart then, right? His heart is susceptible to shadows. He is very in tune with that. So I think that's all we need to explain here. I don't think he has to have a specific fear. What I'm wondering, so this is where a better understanding of geography there would help me. When he gets to the top of Orthanc, he's going to be able to see that orcs and wolves are gathered, and the pits are rendered and whatnot. So is the Tower of Orthanc like kind of at the entrance to the Vale of Isengard? And then like you can only, like he obviously hasn't passed a massed army of orcs and wolves, and it's far enough away that he can't see or hear, the smoke and the pits and everything, right? Like, so I always kind of thought of Isengard, like even the movie has it such that if there were smoking pits and things in the movie setting when Gandalf came there, he would have seen them, right? But Isengard itself, like the circle there, must be miles and miles, right? Which kind of now reorients how I'm thinking of Isengard. Sorry, just catching up with the chat. Nikki's asking, did you destroy hills to create the plateau of Gorgoroth? Maybe. Made that all flat. That's possible. Maybe all of sort of the interior of Mordor was more hilly. Yeah, that's possible. Lara asks, do we know the direction the gates are opening and closing? Let's think about that. Gates would typically swing inward so that you could bar them from the outside. So I think probably once Gandalf is inside, from his perspective, they are closing behind him. That would be my assumption. Yeah. Oh, is it up, down, or sideways? Oh, is it like a portcullis or something? I picture it as swinging doors, sideways. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, Nikki said in the movie, Saruman only starts building his army up after locking Gandalf up. Yeah, yeah. There's that whole scene where he's like sitting there, like huddled in his robes, and thought, I've never understood that. Why is he sitting there like that? He's like a petulant child. Um, but yes, it seems like in the books, obviously he's already started, but obviously that can be hidden from an outside view. The other thing is who's guarding the gates. Like who does he have in his employ? Obviously men, not orcs, right? Otherwise that would really raise the alarm. But wouldn't it be like, are these garrisoned like loyals of Saruman's? Or are they like Dunlendings or something? Wouldn't maybe that's what like I kind of think that's what might be setting Gandalf off is like, why are there guards here? Why do they look like they're from Dunland or something like that, right? Like, and maybe he would know that or should know that, but I don't. I'm wondering about that. Why are there guards? Yeah, Nikki says probably those wild men that pledged to his allegiance. Yeah, like Dunlendings, but why should they be there from Gandalf's perspective? Why are Dunlendings guarding your gate? Is probably question one. Anyway, there he met me and led me up to his high chamber. He wore a ring on his finger. Why is this called out? I mean, remember, this is Gandalf's narrative to the council. Why is he calling out that Saruman wore a ring on his finger? And I think the answer comes later when he calls himself Saruman Ringmaker. We talked about this in the Discord as well. So Saruman has made himself a ring, obviously, and that is evidence to the council of his dabbling in the arts of the enemy. My question is, what kind of ring did he make himself? It's obviously not one of the great rings. He probably doesn't have the skill to make that, but even making a lesser ring is impressive, right? What is the effect of his ring, right? It doesn't make him invisible, obviously. It does it, it's probably not like the elven rings, like helps to preserve his realm. What does that ring accomplish for Saruman? It must augment him in some way, right? And I guess those are the options. It either augments him or it detracts from him. He may have been connived by Sauron into making a ring that submits him to Sauron's service in some way. Or, no, that can't be right because he still wants to betray him. Does it weaken him in some way? I don't know. I would think it augments him. I would think he has learned enough craft through his studies of the enemy to augment his power in some way. And probably his voice, right? His persuasiveness, knowing what we learn of him later. But yeah, a couple of suggestions. Christy says Ring of Strength, maybe, possibly, though we don't see much evidence of that unless it's strength of another kind, or concealment, so it's not so obvious whose side he's on. Yeah, some sort of obfuscation ring, possibly. Yeah. Lara says some kind of intimidation power. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking is intimidation, or I was thinking more, okay, I'm thinking of it in D&D terms, but advantage on charisma checks, like +5 to diplomacy or persuasion, right? Well, a good thought is something that he took as wisdom and clear sight while it was fooling him. Yeah. And so that's kind of how involved was Sauron in this, right? That's my question. How much ring lore and ring making did he learn directly from Sauron? And how trapped was he? by that. Um, um, Kelly asks a quick question. Yeah, quick recap of what the original rings did for men, dwarves, and elves. So the elven rings help them to preserve their realms, and sort of slow the passage of time in a way. The dwarven rings help them to hoard gold. Basically, they attract wealth, putting it simply, and for the men, it extends their lives and gives them power. Now, the dwarven rings didn't work. They, in the way that all of them were intended to wraithify, basically, like, and it worked really well for the men. They extended their lives to the point where every moment is a living hell. They're, butter spread over too much toast. So they wraithified the men, and it worked like a dream. It gave them power and long life, but with a catch. I think it was supposed to do the same for the dwarves, but they were just too hardy and didn't wraithify easily, and so they just, it made them hoard wealth and gold, but nothing worse than that, really. But the elven rings, again, weren't forged by Sauron, so they kind of did what they were intended to do by the elves. Yes, nor watery beer. That's right. Yeah. Butter scraped over too much toast, or the beer keg that has water flowing into the top and beer coming out the bottom, and eventually it just dilutes to water. Yeah, their keg is all water at this point. Oh yeah, okay. So Yola and Ali are saying sort of the same thing. Something it help him control his army, give him something to control the orcs. Yeah, great point. So he's gathering an army of orcs. Orcs are typically loyal to Sauron. Maybe the ring helps him with that. That's a great point. I think that's a really good idea. Nikki's asking about the ring and his robes. So Nikki says, could his ring give the illusion of his robes being many colors? I don't think illusion is right there, would be my guess. I'll bet his robes are now many colors. But is that the doing of the ring? Maybe. Maybe so. I can't imagine him like weaving cloth. So it's got to be an effect. I think he has broken the white light to make his robes, but they may well just be the original white robes, which he has changed with the ring. That's yeah, that's a good thought. I like that too. Okay, well, with that, let's get into colors, because I want to yes, exactly. Well, ring working as a prism. Yeah. So the colors. So the wizards are described. Their titles are colors, right? Saruman is the white. Gandalf is the gray. Radagast is the brown. Those seem to me, and to others, I've heard this said before, it's not original to me, but it seems correct to me that these are descriptions of their areas of study or areas of influence, right? Gandalf is the wanderer. That just seems to be his lot in wizarddom. He wanders and he gives strength to the hearts of men and elves. And I guess that is under the purview of the gray. It's shorthand, right, for what's your job. The brown is nature-y. That's just kind of his domain. And the white seems to be study, or well, it's studying the devices of the enemy, but studying in general, I think, learning and gathering information and moving technology forward, that kind of studying. But learning seems to be the domain of the white. And that is both helpful and perilous, right? As we see. Someone's got to be doing it. This has to be a domain. Someone needs to be earnestly studying this matter, but it's perilous to study the devices of the enemy. And so I think the talk of white is interesting here. So you have come, Gandalf, he said to me gravely, but in his eyes there seemed to be a white light, as if a cold laughter was in his heart. I've always kind of skipped over the white light there into cold laughter in his heart. I'm trying, I try to picture, what he says and how he says it and what he looks like with a cold laughter in his heart, right? But I kind of skip over white light. Shouldn't that be good? This is Saruman the White. Maybe there ought to be a white light in his eye, an unbroken white light. Like, I just can't square in my mind, oh, he has a cold laughter in his heart. What does that look like as perceived as a white light in his eye? And I don't really have an answer to that, but I don't think we can escape it given all the color discussion here, right? And his response, Gandalf says, yes, I have come, I said. I have come for your aid, Saruman the White. And I think when he says this, he's being a bit deferential. He gives him his formal title, but he's also coming to him in his capacity as the White. Yes, I've come for the help of the White. All your learning and your, study. That's why I'm here. It's because you're Saruman the White. I need help from that portfolio, right? And Saruman scoffs at him. Have you indeed, Gandalf the Grey, he scoffed, for aid? It has seldom been heard of that Gandalf the Grey sought for aid, one so cunning and so wise, wandering about the lands and concerning himself in every business, whether it belongs to him or not. So this business of business belonging to one or not, what this suggests to me is that Saruman is mad that the Grey has been meddling in the White's business. You've been going around trying to learn things and trying to study the devices of the enemy, right? You're the Grey. The Grey. I'm the White. And I think that's why he emphasizes Gandalf the Grey, right? It's in italics here, and he's scoffing at him. The other interesting thing in all of this is the interplay, right? Like, that's got to throw Gandalf. That he is nonplussed here. But he plays it off a bit, right? I looked at him and wondered. Yeah, I'll bet. That's an aggressive response. But then he kind of, okay, that was weird. Let's move on. Let's push the ball forward here. But if I am not deceived, said I, things are now moving, which will require the union of all our strength. So I'm not going to address this whole, I'm stepping all over your toes business. Let's work together. Then we get a little bit more back and forth. So Radagast said to me, Radagast the Brown, laughed Saruman, and he no longer concealed his scorn. Radagast the Bird Tamer, Radagast the Simple, Radagast the Fool. He doesn't think much of the portfolio of the Brown, right? And Radagast is a lot of people's favorites. He's not mine. And I'm going to say some mean things about Radagast here, and I hope not to offend. But if I do, I find myself comforted in the fact that Tolkien said that Radagast was a failure too. So even Gandalf in this chapter sort of very gently says that Radagast doesn't call him a fool, but he suggests that he is not powerful. Radagast is, of course, so for Saruman the White is the greatest of my order. Radagast is, of course, a worthy wizard, and sort of describes his purview, but Saruman, etc., etc. He's a worthy wizard. He can do some things. He's all right. That's what I read there. Maybe that's not fair, but that's what I read there too. Yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah, White is having the most knowledge, but what he does with it depends on him. Right. Yeah. So his purview is knowledge, but knowledge is dangerous. Um, could be the contrast Nikki says between the white light in his eyes and the color of his robes. Yeah, but then there's the cold laughter, right? Yeah, I still just don't feel like I'm getting it. Yeah, exactly. So Lindy and Christy are saying, yeah, pulling rank, staying in his lane. Yeah, exactly. Him saying Gandalf the Grey. Yeah, it's pulling rank. It's you're the Grey, and don't you forget it. Lieutenant. You're speaking to a general here. Yeah, well, you're right. For being the White, he never tried to study hobbits, unlike Gandalf. Well, he did go in for hobbit lore much later in his career, to his credit, or at least he got there. Yeah, Saruman. Page says Saruman. Stick to your fireworks, Gandalf. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Go be the Grey. Go entertain. Yeah. Well, and what's the other thing? Yeah, like you need not speak to me as one of the fools that you take for friends. I've brought you hither. I have not brought you hither to be instructed by you, but to give you a choice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like don't you associate with those fools who are entertained by your fireworks. Don't. Yeah, I'm sure they're impressed by your speeches. Um, and look, so I've Lara says I relate to Radagast a whole lot. Radagast is a worthy wizard. I just think that the wizards were sent to Middle Earth to do a job, and the evidence that we have, other than sort of Radagast doing what Gandalf asked and telling Gwaihir and playing a part in his rescue, it doesn't seem like he plays an active role in the War of the Ring, and kind of recuses himself to the forest. Yeah. And that's, yeah, he's a worthy wizard in Gandalf's eyes, and that's enough. I feel like he could have done more. So, Yola asks, great question. If Saruman's area is study, was he then always doomed? It is perilous to study too deeply the arts of the enemy, for good or for ill. But it was his role to study. Yes. Perilous, I don't read in that context to mean inevitably destructive. You can have peril without falling. I don't think he was doomed. I think he made a choice. And I think his choice was informed by despair, like another ruler in a tower that we will see. I think that he despaired of winning, and so cast about for another option. Yeah. Yeah. Lara says, I must commend Tolkien's writing on how much I want to punch Saruman in the face. So that's the other thing I wanted to get to here is, I don't think, let's get to the choices that he puts forward, right? He declaims in this long speech, a speech long rehearsed, right? So he provides three options. One, join with me, a new power is rising. Join with that power. At last, with patience, come to direct its courses and control it. That's his first option. Deploring maybe the evils done, by the way. Yeah. He had to know this wasn't going to sway him. Well, so I'm trying to compare this to Glowin's recounting of the messenger that came to the gate of Dain. I don't feel like this is a real good pitch from Saruman. At least this first one. So is he setting it up to be easily rejected so that he can get the second one? Or does he ever really expect Gandalf to go along with him? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Because to Laura's point, it does feel insulting, right? And we know this with the benefit of knowing of Gandalf as forever the good guy. Maybe Saruman deluded himself into thinking that he could be turned, but it just feels like, no, this was never going to happen. You know that. Why would you go here? Why not just lock him up right away, right? Yeah. So, do evil that good may come of it. That was never going to work. Second option, command the ruling ring, right? Let the power pass to us. Overthrow Sauron and let us rule. It's a better pitch, I think, because maybe he thinks that Gandalf doesn't know that only one hand at a time can control the ring or something like that. Like, he's the one who studied the ring lore closely. Maybe, yeah. Okay, so I gotta catch these comments. These are good. Nikki says, why not just, I said, she's quoting me, why not just lock him up right away? I think it's once again an illusion of choice. Maybe, but I think Lara is more correct. I agree with her. It could be that he was too proud to know it wouldn't work on Gandalf. I think that pride is here. I think that's what it is. I think he's so proud that he thinks with his voice he can turn Gandalf. Yeah, exactly. He's banking on that +5 to charisma, Wendy. That's right. And Yola says, I feel like Saruman doesn't think that Gandalf is smart enough to agree. Yeah. Saruman's the lore master, right? He's the one who studied this. Maybe he just thinks he can bully or cow or convince here. I guess it's a better pitch than the messenger to Danes, but anyway. So the third choice, stay here until the end. Until you reveal to me where the one may be found, I may find means to persuade you, or until it is found in your despite, and the ruler, meaning himself, I had always read that as Sauron. That's just my bad reading, but the ruler, meaning me, I'm the ruler, I've found it, has time to turn to lighter matters, to devise, say, a fitting reward for the hindrance and insolence of Gandalf the Grey. There it is again. He's using his full title. I really like this. What is the effect in the council of Gandalf saying the following? That may not prove to be one of the lighter matters, said I. He laughed at me, for my words were empty, and he knew it. It takes a lot of humility to say that, right? So I spat back at him. I had a good comeback. Yeah, well, I'd like to see you try, right? That might not be one of the lighter matters. But my words were empty, and he knew it, and he laughed at me. I got off this great one-liner at him, and it was so transparently bad that he laughed at me. That's interesting to say at the council, right? Me, I would have left that out. I said, and then he threatened to, get the ring and come back and torture me. And I got off a great one-liner at him. You should have heard it. It was great. But anyway, let's continue on, right? he kind of tells them where his comeback fell flat, and that's interesting to me. Um, I don't think it would do much to damage his credibility within the council. It's just interesting that he would say that. Um, yeah. Yeah, Ali says the root of evil tends to be pride, right? Yeah, pride goeth before the fall. I'm sure he was proud before and during and after his fall. Oh, there's absolutely arrogance, Aiden. Yeah, for him to believe he can successfully command a tool of the enemy. Absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, now, what does successful mean in that context? Let's unpack that a little bit. We know from the council that, well, let's skip forward just a little bit. There's talk of using it. If any of the wise, so this is Elrond, if any of the wise should with this ring overthrow the Lord of Mordor using his own arts, he would then set himself on Sauron's throne, and yet another Dark Lord would appear. So implicit in those words of Elrond's are that one of the wise could take this ring and overthrow Sauron. That would be bad, though, because then another Dark Lord would appear. I guess the arrogance is, yeah, so to Aiden's point, successfully command. Maybe he believes that he won't become a new Dark Lord. Maybe he'll just overthrow Sauron and then, order all things for good. I think that if you categorize successful as take the ring and overthrow Sauron, yeah, I believe Saruman could do that. I think Gandalf could do that. I think Elrond could do that. I think Aragorn could do that. I even think Denethor could do it. Probably. Maybe. But someone powerful could take the ring and become a new Ring Lord. I believe that to be true. I think we have enough evidence of that. Could Sam do it? No. Could Frodo do it? No. They're not wise and powerful enough. But one of the wise and powerful, maybe even Gildor. He's a Noldor of some repute, right? He's a high elf. Might have a puncher's chance, at least. So it depends what you mean by successful. He could successfully overthrow Sauron. Yeah. But to what end, right? Okay. Lindy and Christy are both saying, because Saruman is already so lost in his own pride to believe that he could have complete and total rule and not be evil, because it would be for peace and order, right? And Christy says, the best villains do think they are justified, though, so Saruman could actually believe he's doing the right thing here. Yes, I believe that to be true. Or at least he has convinced himself of it. In the same way that Gollum knows that the ring was his birthday present, right? It was his birthday present. It came to him on his birthday. He owns it. He believes that to be true. He has convinced himself of that. It's not that he murdered Deagle for it. It's that it came to him on his birthday. It was his birthday present. Therefore, he is the rightful owner. And I think that same justification is happening for Saruman. He has justified this to himself. He is doing this for good and for the right reasons, and he is justified in doing it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and great point bringing it back to the colors, Laura. He doesn't call himself Saruman the Black or some dark color. Yeah, so, he truly believes he's following a righteous path. Yes. And if not righteous, at least correct, right? He is taking all of the knowledge, all of the portfolios of the wizards, all of the purviews, all of the domains of all knowledge unto himself. And with that, he's going to become a new ring lord. But, better than Sauron, obviously. Sarah says Saruman is starting to give me Thanos vibes. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, hand jewelry anyway, right? And yes, exactly. Great point, Aiden. Saruman was so influenced by the ring without ever being in its presence. Yes, exactly. So all the ring-induced rationalizations and monologues and all of those things that we see don't need to be proximate. And that's a great point, because that tells us that it's not some sort of near-field communication, Bluetooth thing from the ring, planting thoughts in someone's head. The ring doesn't have to be around at all. The ring doesn't have to even be aware of you in any capacity. If those thoughts are coming from you because of the influence of the ring, that is how evil it is. Yeah. So we are already like an hour into it. Let's talk. What were some other things we wanted to talk about? So we talked about 3 choices that were put to Gandalf from Saruman. This is what I don't have a conclusion here, but I'll put this out there. How does that mirror or interplay with the choices that are put to the council? Defend the ring, either at Rivendell or at the Havens, or with Galadriel, or with Bombadil. That's option 1. Deport the ring, send it across the sea or into the sea, or destroy it. I don't know that was deliberate on Tolkien's part, that there were 3 choices discussed. And even then, as I say that, one other was put forward. Use the ring, right? Boromir put forward, use the ring. Could Boromir have used the ring? Let's get to that later. Could he? I mean, he certainly could have used it. Could he have overthrown Sauron? Don't know about that. A relative of his might have. No, not his dad. Yeah, exactly, Lola. The Palantiri were the Bluetooth devices. Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of talking myself out of there being any parallel between the choices given to Gandalf and the choices available to the council, because it's really 3 versus 4. But I'm interested to hear thoughts on that. And then I think the last thought that I wanted to make, and then I'll catch up on the chat. So if you have anything you want to say before the end, put it in now. But the last thing I wanted to say about the text, no, 2 last things, okay? Just because I just went past it, and I had it underlined, and 2 exclamation marks, because I like this line so much. This is Gandalf and Butterbur. Yes, sir, I'm afraid so, sir, said Butterbur, mistaking me. He got at them, Strider that is, in spite of all that I could do, and they took up with him. They behaved very queer all the time they were here. Willful, you might say. And then just the best line, ass, fool, thrice worthy and beloved Barlaman, said I. I just love that. Ass, fool, thrice worthy and beloved Barlaman. It's the best news I've had since midsummer. Okay, the other thing I really wanted to say. At the beginning of the council, in our talk last week, Elrond, in his sort of introductory speech, says, Now, therefore, things shall be openly spoken that have been hidden from all but a few until this day. And first, so that all may understand what is the peril, the tale of the ring shall be told from the beginning even to this present. So he doesn't explicitly say no secrets among friends here. We're gonna talk this out. We're gonna get it all out in the open. Things are gonna be spoken of openly. But that's kind of the implication, right? And then they kind of not drag out, but Glowin kind of tells them a bit more than was his purview from Dan, right? That Balin went to look for the ring in Moria, the dwarf ring. And so people are spilling, secrets here, kind of, right? It is interesting to me that, where are we here? That Glowin asks the question, what of the 3 rings of the elves? Very mighty rings, it is said. Do not the elf lords keep them? Yet they too were made by the Dark Lord long ago. Are they idle? I see elf lords here. Will they not say? The elves returned no answer. Did you not hear me, Glowin? Said Elrond. The 3 were not made by Sauron, nor did he ever touch them, but of them it is not permitted to speak. Okay, you're being awful close, Elrond. You're hiding behind it is not permitted to speak of them. I mean, okay, it's not hard to guess where 2 of the 3 of them are. But for those in the know, anyway. Why does he not say it is not permitted to speak of them? Okay, but a lot of people are telling tales out of school here a little bit, right? We're just pooling knowledge here. I feel like it's interesting that he doesn't divulge anything there. I shouldn't say anything. He does say they are so much only in this hour of doubt, I may now say, they are not idle. So he gives some insight into them, but it is not... I mean, doesn't that kind of tell a bit more than he says, right? It is not permitted to speak of them, but I know that they're not idle. So I know something about them. How do you know that if they're not permitted to be spoken of? Bit of a trap question, right? Eden, that is the long-term question here. How much autonomy does the ring have, and how much is just mortal failings? Does it actually have influence, or does its mere existence draw out the worst in people? Is it more of a mirror? I have always thought of the ring as being so autonomous, such an agent, right? The ring left Gollum, Gandalf says. So it has agency, right? It slips off a finger when it has a chance. It grows and shrinks in the palm. But does it plant thoughts, or does it just kind of extract them, or provide a vehicle for them, or justify them, or is it, how inert is it? I am not convinced yet that it is particularly sentient. Little pieces of data like Saruman being manipulated by the ring, or so it seems, over distance and time, suggest less autonomy to me, especially when we parallel those with the closeness of it to other people. But I think this is a really good data point. I'm excited by this. Yeah, Paige says, Elrond says, we're here to talk about the ring. Don't get off topic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, never mind about the elven rings. Wendy says, yeah, you can excuse Elrond's evasiveness because he's Elrond, and it would be believable that he'd know things that no one else knows because he's Elrond. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. So he knows what the elven rings are doing, even though it's not permitted to speak of because he's a lore master. Maybe. I would still have follow-up questions, right? Yeah, Nikki, exactly. Don't. He's like, oh, don't worry about that for now, Glowin. I'll tell you, they're doing fine for now. Yeah, exactly. They're safe. It's all good. Don't worry. Take my word for it. Now, tell me more about what you were sent here for. Um, yeah. Laura is asking, what is Sauron exactly? I don't want to know if it's a spoiler. Well, it's not a spoiler unless you're. I mean, no, it's not a spoiler. I mean, he's not. He's that is explained more fully in the Silmarillion and all the other work of Tolkien. Um, he's not man or elf will suffice, but it's not much of a spoiler now. Or dwarf or hobbit. He's a different thing. Yeah, Raziel, is that right? Sorry, Raziel. Yes, is correct. He's a Maya, which is he's an angel functionally, right? He's a divine being in Tolkien's world. Yeah, he's a Lucifer kind of cipher. Anyway, that's me for tonight. Yes, I do recommend the Silmarillion highly, Laura. I tried reading it in high school. It did not go well. I read it. I mean, I flipped all of the pages, I'm sure, but I didn't read it. Didn't say. It was like I tried to read Chesterton's Everlasting Man, probably at an older age than I'd like to admit, and I just kind of turned the pages. I mean, Chesterton is just. I think I'm smart, and then I read stuff like that, and then I realize I am not. Anyway, yes, that's me for tonight. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I'm so glad my European folks get an extra hour of sleep tonight. Thank you for sticking around. Yeah, Nikki, I think I was 15 when I tried the Silmarillion last time. Maybe when we get through Lord of the Rings, we'll do that one. Yeah, it's so good, but you gotta don't read chapter 14. Just don't do it. It's just not worth it. I promise. Anyway, good night, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight, and we'll catch you next week. Oh, and Ringo South, whole chapter next week. We'll get back to doing full chapters. Thanks, everyone. Night.